Triple threat. Doesn't mean it's not a nice podcast.
Wait, what?
Hey, you're listening to Triple Threat. We are the all talk, no music show online on YouTube. We are your three hosts this time around. My name is Tom Routier, and I'm being joined by the cast of crazies, Garrett Hicks.
Hey!
And Becca Christino.
No.
And on today's show, we're going to be talking about something that is fairly new. In fact, we might be the first people on YouTube to talk about this, so tooting our own horn. Toot toot. And that is the new Pink Floyd early years. And no, we're not talking about the whole gosh darn 27 disc box set.
Come on, man. This is an hour show, an episode.
Yes, no. We are talking about Creation. The early years, 1967 to 1972, the cut down 2 CD version. And I say that because there's a slash between E and A. It's nice that Pink Floyd put the separation between the syllables there. This is Creation, which is a 2-disc cut down of the box. And the joke I was going to make, and I might as well make it, this is Creation, and we're doing an observation.
Ha!
All right, that's the last one. That's the last one, I promise. Sorry. But anyway, so we have had a chance to listen to all the tracks. Some have been previously released, some haven't. So we're going to mainly focus on the ones that haven't been released before. So yeah, there's a lot to talk about. There's 27 tracks, all ranging from Arnold Lane, their first single, to the remix stuff from Obscured by Clouds. But I thought before we get to talking about the tracks, let's just talk about the early years, just box set in general, like what we thought of it when we saw the track listing. Like, were we excited when it came out? Like when I saw that it was announced, I was kind of excited about it because Pink Floyd doesn't have a history of releasing unreleased material. They did those immersion sets a couple of years ago, but that was about it. So to see a gigantic 27-disc box set where it was like, yeah, we have a lot of stuff. So here it is.
Yeah.
God bless America.
And the UK and
the UK and literally the whole world. Like, I was so excited. I love unreleased things. Like, I lost my mind about the immersion box set, so this was absolutely no exception.
Oh yeah, I agree. Especially
I was like, I had only seen that once in some weird video in like the crevices of YouTube in like the 8th grade.
Which video?
Embryo.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Yeah, it was like in a pink room or something. So seeing that pop up on there, I was like, damn, all right.
Yeah, I have a soft spot for the early years because I don't know, it always seemed like the period that was never touched on. As soon as Dark Side of the Moon came out, everybody's like, "Oh, cool, Pink Floyd," and then all the stuff that comes after that is really, really good, and everything that came before just kind of falls by the wayside. So, for the longest time, I was, after I'd gone through my phase of listening to Dark Side and Wish You Were Here and The Wall and Animals and stuff, and I was like, I want something different, but I don't want to go Post Waters right now, so what do? I just like listen to metal and Adam Mother and oh god, and maybe these soundtracks are okay. Oh no, and now to see more of this stuff, especially more Sid stuff, because that's another period that I'm really into, Floyd wise.
Well, to be fair, in 2007, Floyd did release a 40 anniversary of Piper at the Gates of Dawn,
yes,
which had the stereo album, the mono album, and some unreleased bonus tracks.
I totally have that set, by the way.
And I totally recommended it to you when we were shopping. I was like, dude, buy this. By the way, I told this to you guys, and I might as well tell them, if you get the booklet, it gives you instructions to fart and enjoy.
Sid's the best.
Yeah, so that was like the only time they released some stuff from that period that we hadn't heard before. And also, I found out that in the UK, they have copyright laws where any unreleased recording more than 50 years old gets released into the public domain unless it's put out. So this could be Pink Floyd's chance to, I guess, beat that copyright rule.
Dude, yeah, I mean, let's be real. Every time a big artist releases, a box set of this magnitude, of this scope, it's a cash grab.
Right.
I mean,
It's my cash, let me tell you.
yeah. And money, man, it's a gas.
It's a gas. Shut up and take it. So the set came out a week ago when we were recording this, but also a 2 CD cut down called Creation came out. So we've all had a chance to listen to the tracks, and we're going to give you our thoughts on them. Like I said, some tracks had been released before, some hadn't. And there's 27 tracks, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on all of them because some of the tracks, like I said, had come out, and some of them aren't really that different in my eyes. We were talking earlier off mic because I was like, oh, I'm going to analyze this live version of Cymbeline. Well, it's a live version of Cymbeline. Okay, next track.
Yeah.
We have here a fine specimen of a live version of Cymbeline.
It's kind of hard to dive in anything further when it is what it is.
Yeah.
High time.
Right. So, like I said, since there are 27 tracks, we're not going to spend too much time on them.
Well, another reason they're putting this out now is so they can make money off the videos they make themselves and not people putting them up on YouTube. So maybe not anymore.
So anyway, what do you say we get to the tracks that are on the 2 CDs?
Nah.
No? All right. That's well, we only came on to talk for 5 minutes.
All right, that's Endgame. All right, great podcast, guys.
Great.
No, let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's start with Cambridge Station.
Cambridge Station, where it almost all started. Because I think the set starts in 65 and this creation starts in 67.
Right.
So the first 2 tracks on CD1 are the band's first 2 A-sides, Arnold Lane and Seemly Play. Like I said, they're the band's first 2 A-sides. You have to have them on here as a sort of like a retrospective. I've always liked these songs, and while there hasn't been a confirmed source that I've seen that these tracks are remastered, I will say they sound remastered as well.
On iTunes, at least, when you gave the tracks to me, it says Arnold Lane and Samly Play are both labeled 2016 remaster. So
that's about the only official source where I've seen it confirmed they're remastered.
They sound pretty much the same as they do on Echo's set, so whatever. By the way,
I'm literally actually hearing impaired, so I cannot answer any audiophile questions.
Wah, wah.
I can definitely tell you that, dude, these are 2 of the best Pink Floyd songs. Like, really, of all of their catalog, these are some of my favorites. And I know that's kind of weird and maybe a little hipster to say that the first stuff was great, but
It's true. Like, it's very true. Some stuff becomes, like, I don't want to say cliche, like, cliche or predictable for a reason, because it earned it, because it is that good.
yeah.
And these 2 songs are absolutely an example of that.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
the whole song really is really solid. I mean, it broke them big for a reason. Well, not big, but, like, it broke through for a reason.
Yeah. Especially, like, Arnold Lane is probably the one I like a little bit more, just because of its melody line is so catchy. Just the way it begins, just dum-dum-dum-dum-dum. It's like, ooh, I want to listen to the rest of this. Yeah, the first notes will get you hooked. Also, on a kind of a side note, I definitely recommend, after you listen to the original by Pink Floyd, you should check out, go to YouTube and look at the version done by the tribute band Brit Floyd.
Never heard it.
Yeah.
Is it pretty spot on?
Oh my god, yeah. Most of Brit Floyd used to be members of the Australian Pink Floyd.
Oh, that's like the big deal one.
Right. And so they nail, the vocals, and most of the instruments are almost sound-alikes, but what I really like about CMLE Play is that they really bring out the harmonies, because, it was recorded like last year, so the sound quality is totally on par with most other live recordings, and also just it's just a fun time to watch these guys just going at it. Also, the girl in the video is really cute, but that's all I have to say.
So, like I said, Arnold Lane and Samly Play, you sort of have to have them on here as the retrospective. Now, could we instead have taken these off and maybe put a few 65 recordings on? Maybe, because for people like me, I'm not that familiar with those tracks, but I have to imagine this is creation is being sold to the mass market, and the mass market will know Arnold Lane and Simply Play rather than I don't know Lucy Leave and I'm a King Bee, which are 65 recordings.
They're also not originals,
right? So maybe there was some copyright issue. I'm not entirely sure. Later up, I'll bring up some songs that I feel could have been on this set. But I'm just saying, could I easily have substituted these two released songs for two unreleased songs? Yeah, maybe. But I love these two songs anyway, so I can't complain.
right?
So track 3 is our first sort of unreleased track. This is Matilda Mother, a 2010 remix. I'm going to put this out for anyone who's wondering why it's 2010 remix and not 2016 remix. In 2010, there was a Syd Barrett compilation called An Introduction to Syd Barrett, which featured this alternate version of Matilda Mother mixed in 2010. Also on the set is Jug Band Blues and In the Beechwoods, which are both labeled 2010 mix, but they are listed as not released. So my guess is they were prepared for that compilation and just weren't included at the time.
Oh.
But this version of Matilda Mother was. It was also on the Piper at the Gates of Dawn 40th anniversary, but this is an extended version. Haha!
Yeah, it's actually, I listened to the 2007 one from the 40th anniversary set, and it is different. And not just from the extended fade out. There are a couple elements within the track.
There's not even a fade out on this one,
Yeah.
which is really cool.
Yeah, especially because you get to hear these different lyrics on it, which is, I guess, the big draw for this track, is that they use the alternate lyrics, which I don't think are as good as the final version, but it is nice to hear a really clear early Rick vocal.
Yeah, it is.
What do you think of this fine Matilda Mother remix, Becca?
I love it for that exact reason. It's very nice because that is fine. That's hard to find. Like, he didn't really, sing too many songs with the Floyd. I mean, a fair deal, but like not, a whole bunch. So like, I will cling to anything. Nah, but for real, like, it's good to hear and very clear.
Yeah, it is. It is really nice to listen to. This one's kind of in recent weeks since I've been listening to this, preparing this. This and the original have kind of been like interchangeable for me. I don't favor one over the other. I really dig how clear this sounds as well. It's mixed really
like,
nice.
You know it's good when even I notice it, and I absolutely notice this. Like, it sounds very, very clear, which is much appreciated.
Definitely.
Right, you get the double track vocals on it, and the fade out where it actually ends pretty cold. I say pretty cold, and you can basically tell they're fading as like, okay, is it done? Okay, I think that was good.
Yeah.
We're done here.
Yeah. And I noticed that the vocals keep the original fade out, but it's just the instrumentals that keep extended. Like, apparently the vocals were on a hard take that they couldn't
take off.
Right, they couldn't mix up the vocals at the end of that, which is understandable, but I just thought it was a really interesting way to, like, this is what the Floyd do when they fade out and don't really have anything to do for another 30 seconds of a song.
Just keep trucking.
Yeah, that's one of the really cool things about this creation set anyway, is that you get to get a glimpse into their working process for for songs in multiple periods.
All right, so track 4 on CD1 is another 2010 remix, but this had not been released before, of Jug Band Blues. Sid's last song he did with the Floyd that was released. And I will preface by saying this, because Garrett pointed out before we were recording this, you need to listen to this song on headphones to really find out what is different. Because I've been listening to it in my car, and all the time I kept thinking, how is this different from the original? I mean, it sounds good, but I was looking for things to find out about it, and so Garrett is going to fill us in on that.
Well, I haven't actually listened to enough to give you many specifics, but...
I have 0, so if you have at least 1, you're doing better than I have.
Well, so I really like Jug Band Blues, so I listened to it a lot, and... mainly because Saucerful is one of the better albums in my opinion, and I always thought that, at least on my CD copy of Saucerful, that Jug Band Blues in particular had a really crappy mix job or remastering or whatever it was in the 90s they did. And I'm so glad that this is finally a clear version of it, that you don't get nearly as much pop and hiss. And then they also retooled a few bits inside the song itself, brought up a couple of instrument tracks that you couldn't hear before. Like, I think there's some keyboards that I'd never noticed. And then also just sort of tweaking things, like when it changes gears from the kooky band stuff into Sid's sad acoustic guitar at the end, it's not as hard a cut. They do a quick fade and then fade up his guitar more quickly so that you can actually hear the final verse without turning up the volume.
I just want to point out for our visual listeners, because this is not a visual recording, that Becca perked up when she heard that the keyboards were more clear.
Yep.
Saw that head spin. I thought you were about to remark on the chocolate syringe I've been holding.
We already did, and I'm still jealous.
Right? Man, God, I'm sitting here. I haven't eaten in, 4 or 5 hours now?
Whatever, how long it's been.
Yeah.
Sure, just feed us through the Skype connection.
Oh, don't mess up your webcam, girl. Don't.
That high-def chocolate view. For those listening, they sell these in New York City. They're literally plastic syringes full of like melty chocolate that you just dump directly into your mouth hole.
We got to go to New York City then.
Right? God.
It's glorious.
Well, speaking of silliness, so to speak, Becca, any thoughts on this Jug Band 2010 remix? She's nodding her head for those who can clearly see it.
Yes.
Yes, I'm nodding my head for all to hear. I got a face for radio. But yeah, no, I agree with Garrett on a lot of it. Like, it's good.
Yeah. It is very good.
But like, and it is true. You need to take the headphones to listen to it, because there's a lot of like little nuances you can hear when you're like really paying attention to it.
Yeah, the differences here aren't as clear on speaker as say, like Matilda Mother, because you said they have the alternate lyrics and all that. I will say, just so I can say this, there were a lot of songs on here that I really enjoyed in the context of this set.
As opposed to the context of the original album.
Exactly. I am not one who pulls out the soundtracks a lot. So songs like, I know you are, Becca.
Soundtracks.
And
I was gonna say, you don't pull out the soundtracks often. Well, who does? And then Becca raises her hand.
All those who can clearly see, everyone turn their eyes to me.
But I will say, because I don't pull them out a lot, songs like Cymbeline or Childhood's End kind of get lost. So to hear them separated, pulled out from that collection, and given a new version, made me just discover the song in general, like rediscovering it, and make me give it an appreciation that maybe I hadn't had before.
Yeah.
And Jug Band Blues, oddly enough, was one of them. It was never one that I disliked, but just hearing this remix, especially listening to it over and over again to prepare for this show, I found myself singing along to it today, and that's never happened.
Yeah.
And I found myself doing a jig to the big band section in my car, which is the only way that I'm going to hear that song from now on. And I will say, I also can't hear the song without hearing the bells from High Hopes at the end, because that was the first. For those who don't know, that's on the Echoes compilation, Jug Band Blues segues right into High Hopes. That was my first version of that song I ever heard. So I still expect to hear, what exactly is a joke? Ding, 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 ding. And it doesn't happen.
Nope.
So anyway, moving on, track 5, speaking of Richard Wright and all of his gloriousness, is Paintbox. Yay!
I love Paintbox so much, you guys.
Becca, start us off.
Well, let me tell you, this song is such a good, jaunty little number. Like, it's so fun and jazzy, which, like, is characteristic of a lot of the early stuff I found. Like, instead of jazz being incorporated into, like, cool experimental stuff, because that influence is there and, like, has always been there. It's just, like, the early period with the weird floating period just after Sid, where they're trying to figure out what the hell are we doing, is so full of these fun little, like, one-off kind of songs that are just good for some reason. And Paintbox is absolutely one of them. Like, where the hell does this fit in with the rest of the Pink Floyd catalog? But also, why don't I mind?
Yeah.
Well, it was a
Well, we
B-side.
don't, but
Yeah, we should say it was a B-side to Apples and Oranges, I believe.
Yes.
But I totally get what you're saying. Like that jazz slash experimental style slash approach is totally Rick's style. Being able to take jazz and like turn it on its ear. Again, hearing this song in context, away from the other compilations that Paintbox has been on, just made me again like actually bounce when I was listening to this song, which has never happened before.
Yeah. I definitely have to say that, especially on this compilation, Paintbox has grown on me a lot. Because
I'm in the same boat.
yeah, because before, like you said, it's kind of just this weird thing that defies a lot of classifications, and it does.
Text of the Floyd catalog is weird, but like taken out of context in the way that many things are on this compilation.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Totally agree.
And I would say that, it does have this sort of sound to it that's like Rick had like 3 bits of songs and decided to mash them together. Because,
You're not wrong. It's what it does sound like.
Because the verse and the second part of the chorus are so very different, and the first part of the chorus only kind of links them together. And then the bridge is just all kinds of weird. But, it's definitely grown a lot on me, especially in these recent listenings. And I do have to say, like, one thing that I've always liked about it is Sid strumming on acoustic on it. Because
that's Sid playing?
Yes, it is.
Huh. I never knew that. I mean, it is the B-side of Apples and Oranges.
Actually, a very weird in-between period, because any music videos of it that have been known to exist do not have Sid in them.
That's right. This was when Sid was not capable of, going out in public for long periods of time. And so David is on the promo video for Paintbox.
With his hair very heavily obscuring his face, as is characteristic with many of the videos from that era.
Oh,
yes.
for sure.
Yes.
I'm sure there's a See Emily Play video from that time as well.
Yeah, one where they're just kind of mucking around in a small field or something.
Like, the camera, like, does this weird zoom in and out thing that, like, kind of makes you want to bark.
And it's really funny because it's all done in one take, where they're just kind of, all right, the 4 of you just stand over here and do antics, and we're gonna watch.
Nice.
But back to Paintbox. I also really like, just it feels like a dream the whole way through, which is really characteristic of a lot of Rick's music, especially especially in the early period. And toward the end, where the effects get really turned way up, and there are all these bits and
the harmonies, while there's that dancey little piano line just running away at the end.
Yeah.
Here I am.
And I noticed that this version of Paintbox actually has a slightly extended fade out. So
well, it's really good that you bring that up, because one thing I found out doing some research is previous compilations that had Paintbox cut the song off by about, I think, 13 seconds. So here you are getting Paintbox in its original length as it was released.
Damn straight.
So we can applaud them for that. And Becca, in her case, will shake her webcam for that. Okay.
One last note on this: we gotta praise the unsung hero that is Nick Mason, especially on this number, because he just does all these really extended and fun drum fills that go on for probably 10 seconds each. No, maybe not that long.
Like, that's a very good part of that, like, little instrumental thing between. Oh my god, I just splattered chocolate all over myself.
Sounds delicious.
I expect this to happen like this.
All right, let's move on from the trauma, and let's get to Flaming. This is taken from a BBC radio session from the September 25th, 1967.
Very ethereal sounds.
From the Pink Floyd.
Pink Floyd.
This one, like what I was getting to earlier when I was saying it is what it is, this one is what it is. It's a live version of Flaming.
Yeah, for the most part, it's just pretty standard. The sound quality isn't the best. I mean,
right.
What do you expect, really?
I do like it. I didn't mean to put it down like it is what it is. No, I actually like this version, again, taking a song that is kind of buried on Piper for me and just giving this a live version. I was like, all right, I can vibe with this.
Yeah. Unfortunately, this is also one of those tracks that really gives you a window into Sid's disintegration, I think. Because you can tell in the lyrics that They do double track his vocals, so it's not, totally live, but that he's messing up against his own double track, that he's getting the lyrics wrong, and he just sounds really bored singing it. So, unfortunately, that's just got to come with the territories. In such a tragic story as the early Pink Floyd, that you got to come and address Sid's departure, and it's pretty kind of disheartening to listen to and see the disintegration of a musical genius. And I don't like to throw the word genius around, but Syd Barrett was absolutely inspirational and inadvertently and indirectly changed the face of pop music. In a lot of ways, also directly, just doing what he did in Piper.
What about you, Becca? Thoughts on this BBC version of Flaming?
Garrett hit the nail on the head, honestly. It's so eerie to hear the vocals the way they are. It kind of drives home the part of the story that can't really be avoided.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I will say, sort of, on a positive note, we are lucky to have this track on here, because on the early years box set, there's that bonus disc, which you only get in the box set.
God damn it.
And this is one of those tracks. So we can applaud them for at least including it.
Yeah, thinking of people who don't have money.
For real. I mean, to be fair, we all know that the individual years are going to come out next year, but there's that bonus disc which you can only get in the box set, and which includes this version of Flaming. So there you go. Becca, you didn't know that they were going to be released separately next year? No. Get your money, girl.
Well, I gotta. I've been so behind the times.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to be really clear, for if we weren't, so there are 27 discs in the early years box set, and it costs like $550. Yeah, and because none of us are made of money,
Don't give me that. Don't give me none of that too goody good bullshit.
It's probably a really good idea if you're at all interested in early years. Pick up Creation, give the 2 discs a try, and if you like what you hear, go ahead and pick up individual discs that will be coming out in 2017. If you're not a fan, you're probably not going to want to invest any more money on it.
So that's that. Moving on to In the Beechwoods, a 2010 mix, which again made me think it was mixed for that Syd Barrett compilation in 2010.
And this is historic. This is
a new track.
a totally unreleased, never before heard track.
Never bootlegged either.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I say queen of the bootlegs.
Oh, we'd like to challenge you, my good friend.
I had never heard this one before, so this was very, very interesting to hear. I was so excited. I was like, what the hell is this? I've never seen this name written anywhere before, like spinning through the rumor mill. Like, what are you?
I know, right? We should also preface, we got these tracks digitally, so it didn't come with a booklet, so we don't know if this was written by Syd or this was after, blah, 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 blah. I think this, if it says 2010 mix, my guess is, yeah, it had to be at least written by Syd.
Yeah, also, I've kind of looked pretty critically at this track listing, and there are pretty clear divisions of each of the sets by year, and In the Beechwoods is the 7th track, and it appears to be the last one of the 67 section.
So we can make a very, very educated guess that this is a Syd track.
Right.
And also, the two...
It says it is a lost 1966 Syd Barrett song.
Hooray!
66, wow.
And we get to hear it.
So this is interesting, because this is actually in the period where he was okay to work around. And so apparently this... I would guess this is a track that was meant to have vocals.
I was thinking the same thing when I first heard it. I was like, this sounds like an instrumental that was going to go somewhere.
Right, but they never got around to it, or they decided not to record vocals for it, or whatever. I don't know why, because it's got a really cool sound.
Really cool sound.
I really enjoyed the sound of this one.
Me too. This was a total surprise for me, because I kind of went into this track knowing that it was close to Syd's departure, or at least just assuming it was.
Yeah.
So I assumed it to kind of go off the rails a little bit. but it's really together. I love I call them the wind / chime sounds on it.
Yeah, I think that's a guitar. I want to say that's a guitar.
It sounds like it could be
with a wah-wah sort of effect.
Whatever it is, it sounds beautiful. This is a really tight, quote-unquote, instrumental track. Again, I don't think it was meant to be an instrumental, but for what it is, just this backing track, really, really nice.
Yeah, I especially like Nick's drums on this one. Again, with a, it's a sort of repetitive drum riff, I guess is the best way to say it. But that's really what Nick is best for, is setting up a really solid beat, even if it's not the most imaginative. And yeah, this is just a totally bouncy, fun, really tight track that showcases everybody's talent in it, whether that's Rick on piano, even Roger has a really neat bass line.
Yeah, which I was very pleasantly surprised by. That was very neat to hear.
Yeah, you don't hear a lot about, Roger Waters' musical talent. And
you hear other things about Roger Waters.
Oh, shit. No, but it's kind of... Roger's kind of sort of overlooked in this earlier segment because, you've got Sid in the first sets, who's the front man and the lyricist and everything. And then Roger has always been probably the least musically talented of all of them. He only came to the fore as a poet much, much later. But it is good to hear him, put out a really good bass sound in this song.
Mm-hmm. Becca, what do you want to add to this lovely track that we had not heard before?
We pretty much covered all there is to cover. It's just such a pleasure to have this new track. Roger's bass line is interesting, which is interesting.
Well, let me ask you this, Miss Queen of the Bootlegs. You must be familiar with two other Sid songs from this point, Scream Thy Last Scream and Vegetable Man, which are both on the earlier set but are not included on this. Those two songs had been heavily bootlegged for years, and now we're finally getting a legitimate release. Of those three, Scream Thy Last Scream, Vegetable Man, and In the Beechwoods, if you had to include only one on this compilation, what would you pick? Because personally, I would pick In the Beechwoods because we never had that before.
I would pick In the Beechwoods for the same exact reason. The others are so heavy. They are so heavily bootlegged. I heard them back in 2008 when I was 12 or something, and I was like, oh, that's cool. But In the Beechwoods, I had never heard before. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know it existed. And it's such a pleasant track to have because it's just so... it was going places. That track was absolutely going places.
Mm-hmm. Would you agree?
Well, I think it's a matter of personal taste that I would choose Vegetable Man. Because I've always been really fascinated by Sid in general, and even kind of morbidly curious about his downfall. And to hear one of the last things he ever did that just sounds so kooky and weird and off the wall. And in a way is really catchy as well.
I will say...
It is weirdly catchy.
Yeah.
I will say, I certainly wouldn't have minded if either of those two songs were included on here to hear a quote-unquote cleaned up version of those. But I have to imagine behind the scenes, it was like, okay, we have these three Sid songs. Which one do we want the mass to hear? Well, this one's never even been heard before. So if that was the case, then good on you, Floyd.
Right on.
That.
All right, moving on. We get three tracks back to back that had been released before. Point Me at the Sky, which was an A-side, Careful with That Axe Eugene, which was a B-side, and Embryo, which was from the Harvest Record sample Picnic.
A breath of fresh air.
A breath of fresh air, as it were. And then years later, it appeared on the Works Greatest Hits. It's lousy.
Yeah.
And that was the only track that you could get on there. It was very much a cash cow. So these three had been included before. I do like that they are included out of context, because Point Me at the Sky is one I think I heard twice and then put it away. Mm-hmm. Careful with That Axe Eugene, it's one of their most famous songs. They did it at Pompeii. They did it live. And Embryo is nice to include on here because that Works compilation CD is out of print. So it was almost like the band was like, yeah, we know it's not available, so here you go.
Just take it, please.
So my quick thoughts is I really enjoy all of them, and I'm happy to hear them once again.
Yeah, these three are part of they're taken from the Germination set from 1968, so we're in 68 territory now.
The transition period. Barrett's now gone.
Yes. Yeah, he's not on any of these three.
Things are getting weird.
True.
68 was got weird.
Oh, for sure.
Definitely. And what better place to start than Point Me at the Sky, which is definitely them, you know, really trying to dive straight into psychedelia without Sid.
And it's like, it shows.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like Becca
Yeah.
was talking about earlier, Paintbox. Where the hell are they going to go? Point Me at the Sky was kind of that song. Where are they going to go now that Sid's now gone?
Yeah, they're just gonna pull up their trousers and just dive right in. So I have to say it. Point Me at the Sky is a bad song.
It's not great.
It's not good.
It is not a good song, but goddamn, God help me, I love this song.
No, that- you-
Yeah. I was about to say the same thing. I was like, it's not good, but do I like it a lot? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he has it right here in his notes. I love this bad song.
Yes.
I love this bad song.
Yeah. Right there.
To be fair, yeah, it's. Point me at the sky and let it fly.
Point me at the sky and let it fly. God.
Video that they made with like the purple filter and like the rocking chair.
I actually haven't seen the promo film because it keeps getting taken down.
I have like this exciting bootleg DVD thing taken down. Like I've got a stash of like physical copies of these bootlegged videos, and it's just such a goofy video. Like there's like this purple filter thing. So they're all purple, and it's like, why are you doing that? And then there's a plane.
Yeah. I mean,
Literally,
predictably.
with the sky, they are flying.
Yeah.
We get, but yeah, like I feel like your notes were at least a little more coherent because they started with "I love this bad song" and had other words. Mine would literally just be "I love this bad song" and like comic books on some notebook paper.
I mean, the next phrase I had here was psychedelic F. So.
You mean psychedelic AF?
Yes,
Yeah, it's like-
yes,
yeah.
Tom. That's what F means.
Just to be clear.
This is psychedelic F. Is
Psychedelic AF is
But I gotta say, I really like this song.
such a fun, goofy song.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But still not good.
Uh,
By any means.
no, and I especially like probably the only technically good thing you could say about this song is that Gilmore sings 3 parts on this, and they all sound different. Which is in the chorus, he has this really tender sort of croon, and then the pre-chorus, he has this sort of weird thing where he and Roger almost sound like the same person. And then in the middle of the chorus, where he has that really rough Gilmore voice that he would use further on. And it's amazing to listen to these 3 sides of this one voice.
It's
Hard to have it all in one song because you do hear it throughout the catalog, all the different things that David Gilmour's voice can sound like.
Mm.
And then literally have a single song example of a side-by-side comparison. I've never thought of it that way, but now that I'm thinking about it that way, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
So there's Point Me at the Sky, and the next, as I mentioned, was Careful with That Oxygen, which was a B-side. Like I said, you know, they don't just go with the A-sides on this compilation. Careful with That Oxygen was the B-side of Julia Dream, which is actually a pretty nice song.
I really like Julia.
And then Careful with That Oxygen, it's probably on here because not only is it a pretty cool number, but it's one that, you know, has existed throughout their history. Like I said, they played it live, even as late as 77, and it was at Pompeii. I've always kind of liked Careful That Oxygen. It very much, I hate to say it, it's a stoner jam.
Damn straight.
Yeah, it is.
So it was nice to hear again, just in this context.
Yeah.
And that's all I have to say about it, really.
I like it much better live than studio.
I agree.
To be honest, like it takes on a whole new life live because then it's like very stoner jam because it's slower, but also like it's more raw. Like the Pompeii version, that screech is just guttural and like it
Dude.
actually like comes to a climax. Like it's like in the studio it seems forced, but like live it's like just builds and then there's just like this literal explosion.
Mm.
So, like, the studio version, it's important, but, like, not as important as the live versions.
Yeah, it's funny you should mention, you should say explosion, because while this version of Careful with That X is very good, I think it is merely passable, considering what they were able to do with it later, especially on the Zabriskie Point soundtrack, which we'll talk about in a bit, where they did a version of it called Commitment Number 51, Your Time Is Up, which is a Beatles reference.
Is it?
Yes.
What 50?
That was so when Ringo was on the banks talking to the kid. After that scene, he walks by.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, Day's Night, yeah.
He walks by.
I just watched that movie, Hard Day's Night.
Yeah.
I did this whole thing out of order, and I started with Pink Floyd and then moved on to the Beatles when I was learning about music. So I saw, I knew the bootlegs and stuff, and then I watched A Hard Day's Night, and I heard that line, and I was like,
You're so right, because I watched that movie just a few weeks ago, and that totally just went right over my head.
Right. As I was saying, when Ringo was walking down the river following his deep conversation with the little boy, there's a boat rental service where the guy running the service calls out over the water, "Number 51, your time is up."
Nice.
But anyway, the version of Careful with That Axe Eugene with that title is also a studio version. It's missing, it doesn't have the words Careful with That Axe Eugene, duh. But it is incredible how it's a studio version of the same song and yet has just about the same intensity as a live version, including the build-up all the way to the release with the absolutely iconic Nick Mason drum fill that kicks it off. Yeah, and Roger's scream is layered 5 times over itself, and as scary as it ever was live.
so scary.
Yeah, this version, it's a good introduction to Eugene, but God, you gotta go just up and up from there.
Mm-hmm. And then
That's production, so you don't have to be disappointed.
Yeah, and I should mention the part of Zabriskie Point where they use it at the climax of the song. They actually show footage of explosions happening.
Nice,
which is absolutely perfect.
And then the third track that I mentioned was Embryo, which was on the Breath of Fresh Air Picnic Harvest sampler, which was released without their permission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this was actually, I found out, at least according to the earlier box set, is listed as an outtake from More, part of the More non-album tracks.
I didn't know that.
And this was one that they just had, and then I guess someone picked it up, put it on the Picnic album, like I said, without their permission. Embryo, like I said, I've pretty much always liked this song, and I'm glad it's on here for people who don't have that Works CD because it's out of print.
Mm.
Anything else to add with Embryo, or should we move on?
What I thought...
Pretty much said it. It's a cool song.
Yeah, I don't really have much to say about it.
Well, what I thought was really neat about Embryo, and I've listened to it several times because I bought it off of the Works compilation on iTunes when it was up there. What I really liked about it is that, again, it's another one of these tracks that's really dreamy,
Yeah, for sure.
It just kind of floats there in your mind, especially with the melody that will totally get stuck in your head forever.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's got that really, it seems like not even intentional, but just the melody has that alternating note theme of da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and that'll just lock right into your brain. It seems like just a biological thing. And what's crazy about this version of Embryo, I found out that it's actually unfinished. Which is why it took on an entirely different life when it was played live.
Never knew that.
Yeah, I'm guessing that they were going to eventually put in more drum tracks or electric guitar tracks, but as it stands on this version, it's totally acoustic, very minimal keyboards, and an amazing bass part. Let's be real.
Yeah, for sure. Not to be funny, that's probably why it was a More outtake. It wasn't finished in the band's eyes.
Yeah.
But not to those guys who, released it without their permission.
Right.
So the next track is Grantchester Meadows, and
No, it's not. No, you can't skip over this, Tom.
It's absolutely nothing.
We're kicking off 1969, the dramatization period, with an ad for the 1969 Pink Floyd album, Omagama.
Oh my god, you cannot skip over this.
Why
were you about to skip over the oh my god?
Becca, that was the joke.
But
here's the joke, and here's you, and just went over your head. I'm sorry.
So,
Radio radio viewers.
So you see here, I have written an extensive review of this ad.
Everyone can see.
What?
What?
It's just the word "what" with a question mark. It's 22 seconds long, and it's just the clip from the very end of Grantchester Meadows' studio version where Roger walks across the room and swats a fly while some announcer guy just says, "Pink Floyd. At least it's a nice band." I'm like, what the f*** does that mean?
And nowhere in the song, except for the Grantchester Meadows, does it mention it's an ad for Uma Guma. Listening at the time, if you had never bought Uma Guma, what the hell?
Right? What a weird commercial. I mean, it was British and it probably went over the, since it was 69, it was like a pirate radio commercial probably.
For
like the
sure.
Who did. I don't know, man.
Yeah,
it's just funny.
This is the other song on this 2 CD set. That is only on the bonus disc. And this is probably just on there just to be like, oh, it's 22 seconds. We could totally add this on here.
Right.
On there? Why not, man?
Yeah. Also because we have... Oh, shit. I actually thought we didn't have many 1969 songs. We have like 5.
We have... after this, we have 4 tracks from a May 12th, 1969 show. Grantchester Meadows, Cymbeline, Green is the Color, Careful That Axe Eugene. And in between those is a 1969 August live recording of Interstellar Overdrive. So it starts with the 2 BBC recordings of Grantchester Meadows and Cymbeline, and my simple answer, you all know what I'm going to say. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Well, in case you're expecting anything different, it's Cymbeline. So
It's Grantchester Meadows and Cymbeline. Yay!
Well, to be fair, Grantchester Meadows has stuff that we haven't heard before on it. Not officially, anyway. It's got like... Shut up. We've got, Gilmore playing on it with Roger, and he has these really nice harmonies throughout the song that I think really add to it. And then, of course, at the end, we can't leave out Rick's got a piano solo.
Oh, how could I leave out Rick? Rick, I know you're listening. Please forgive my sins against humanity.
Rick Wright speaking through his page Becca has forgiven your sins.
His secretary,
his high priestess.
Secretary, please hold.
But I mean, like I mentioned earlier, hearing these 2 songs out of context, because. All right, so
Sorry about that.
Becca's gonna start her own web series where she's the secretary to the ghost of Rick Wright. So please stay tuned for that,
dude.
Like that cowardly dog medium who opened her mouth and it was a hold signal.
Oh yeah.
That was the first thing that came into my mind. I was like, you expect my head to flip open like a Pez head and just be like, tone? Like, what do you want from me?
To be fair, when I said hearing songs out of context, Uma Guma is an album that I don't play.
Oh, no.
And Grantchester Meadows was the only song I liked on that record, but I never really went back to it. So hearing this out of context was like, oh yeah, this is the good song on Uma Guma that I like. So just hearing it was nice. And Cymbeline, like I said, I don't listen to the soundtracks that much. So hearing it out of context in a new version just made me discover the song. So as much as I want to say they are live, it is what it is. I still enjoy listening to them.
Yeah. I gotta say...
It is a good.
It is a good.
Yeah.
2 goods to be exact.
I think
It's my review, tattoo it on my body, put it on a billboard. Pink Floyd. It is a good.
It is a good.
I could have made a better Oh My Gumma ad
Then it's a nice name.
It's a good.
Oh man.
Thoughts on these?
Yeah, I don't know. Grantchester it's nice, but I actually prefer the studio version more. Mainly because I just really think that the ending is a brilliant piece of comedy. Of having this really pastoral and lovely song, and then all of a sudden it's cut short by somebody smacking a fly. And then...
I'm sorry.
Yeah, and then also as cool as the keyboard part is, it has this weird echo thing where they're playing one note right after the other, and I just found it really jarring and disconcerting personally.
Pudding.
Yeah, kind of off-putting because it's a nice keyboard sound, but the effect on it,
Yeah,
not so much.
Yeah, I wish I could have heard a version where Rick didn't have that effect on his keyboard, but for all we know, that doesn't exist at all.
And Cymbaline?
As for Cymbaline, I think it's better than the studio version, mainly because I don't like the sound of the More album as a whole. I think the production could have been a lot better, and improvements on this are mainly stuff like just performers' choices. I like Gilmore's voice live more than in the studio for the most part. And there's that sort of scatting bit he does in the middle of the More version. I just like, okay, no. And it's not here, so I like it more for that reason.
Becca, what do you think of these two live recordings of Grand Chester Meadows and Cymbaline?
I agree that I prefer the studio version of Grand Chester Meadows just because it the comedic ending with the fly just adds to the summer ambiance of the song. Like it is like you're laying on your back in some field, just kind of chilling. The sun is shining, and then there's a fly. Like it builds a universe. The studio version, the live version is nice, but it doesn't have that same world building kind of like the sound makes the setting in a way.
Right.
And then Cymbaline is Cymbaline. I will take Cymbaline in all forms. I love it. So,
Yeah.
and I like that scatting bit, so I like the studio version as well. But yeah, more sound quality is weird.
Yeah.
Because I already can't hear, and it's super quiet.
Yeah.
So,
It sits quietly for some reason as a giant middle finger to my non-functioning cochlea. Don't do that.
Right.
wow.
I will say that I do think Cymbaline is the best song on More, hands
Yes,
down.
I agree.
And then we also have two more BBC songs from May 1969, but sandwiched in between that is Interstellar Overdrive, live at the Paradiso in Amsterdam in August 1969.
We should preface by saying it is a section of Interstellar Overdrive.
Here's the thing, when I first played this, I didn't even know it was Interstellar Overdrive. I just went to the next song on my phone, and I pulled out my phone to see what it was, and I was like, this is Interstellar Overdrive? Because it sounded like just a cool jam.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my reaction to it, too. I'm like, this is... Hello?
Yeah.
There's that one riff, that one descending, it's hard to characterize as Interstellar Overdrive, but honestly, you'll tell us it's that, and I'll buy it.
Yeah. I gotta say, just to make sure everybody's aware, including, especially the listeners, in later years of playing Interstellar Overdrive, which they played up until 1970, it lasted a fairly long time in their set list, it lasted anywhere from 12 to 25 minutes. So I'm guessing that's why we only got the last 4 or 5 minutes here, is because it is just really long and just kind of convoluted, because for the most part, Interstellar Overdrive is a freeform, weird, psychedelic jam. And it's only, it only coheres around, again, the descending riff that we mentioned. That's why...
It's very fun to play.
Absolutely. And I gotta say, one of the things that really drove home this selection of Interstellar Overdrive drove home for me was that Pink Floyd could get really, really minimal with their sound on stage and still be playing music. You only get occasional beats from the drums on Nick, just a few chirps from the keyboards, and maybe a pad in the background. The guitar would come and interject one or two things. The bass would just dump occasionally. It's amazing how much music they could make with how little they were playing their instruments at a time.
And you pointed out before we started recording that this is at a time where it really was just the four of them. They didn't have any players to augment their sound.
Right.
So to sound this good when there's only four people playing, is incredible.
Yeah, I agree.
So then there's that. Was there anything you wanted to add?
I will say that if you're going to get any version of Interstellar Overdrive, I would say find the one on Piper.
Yeah.
Partly because part of what makes it such a great song is the stereo version of Piper, where it pans in your ears. And
Sorry, Becca.
No, I know, but it's still it's still cool.
Yeah, you still
Kind of
you still get the idea, even in the mono version of it. You can kind of pick up what they were going for.
Yeah.
And I'll say get that one and not the rarer studio version that's about 17 minutes long.
Oh, what was that? The London album? Let's make Love in London.
Yeah.
Soundtrack thing.
Yeah.
Right.
While that is cool to listen to, the early Pink Floyd jam for 17 minutes, 9.5 is all you need.
And that song might be getting some popular recently because as of this recording, it was used in the Doctor Strange Marvel movie. So shout out to
Wait,
that.
it was? What?
Oh, spoiler.
It's not a spoiler.
No, it's not.
Spoiler, I just don't know anything anymore.
It made my goddamn day to be sitting in this movie with Benedict Cumberbuns and...
It's very good to know that I know that it's in it now, because if I was caught off guard, I would have screeched.
Yeah.
I would have been like,
And the ushers would have taken you out of the theater.
Yeah.
Are you screaming about these sounds? And I'd be like, listen.
Yeah, don't worry, it comes in very early in the movie, so you won't be waiting too long for it.
So hopefully that track takes off again. And then the final two tracks to end CD1 are more BBC recordings from the May 12th, 1969. Green is the Color and Careful with That Axe, Gene.
Which one segues into the other. So
I was just going to say,
it's interesting.
I didn't even know that Careful with That Axe, Gene had started because I played this on my iPhone without looking at it. So I was like, wow, they're doing a pretty cool jam at the end of Green is the Color. And I checked my phone and it's the next track.
Yeah.
But to be fair, as I point out to you, it doesn't sound that much like Careful with That Axe, Gene. It sounds like a jam-ish around that song. But had I not looked at the title, I would have no idea that it was quote unquote Careful with That Axe, Eugene.
Well, it kind of isn't.
That's what I'm saying. It kind of is, but it kind of isn't.
Well, because this is 1969, which means this was when Pink Floyd were doing The Man and the Journey. Which, for those of you who don't know, which is probably most of you, in 1969, Pink Floyd toured. Their live show consisted of two very long suites of music, one called The Man and one called The Journey, that supposedly covered the lifetime of an extraordinary man over 24 hours. Yeah, just a sort of day in the life for the first half, and then a strange, weird journey he goes on. Everything from waking up, going to work, coming home, and sleeping with his wife, and then going to sleep. And then the journey, he just goes on this weird, trippy thing that I have no idea what his objective is, or where he's going, or what he's looking for. But Green is the Color and Careful with That Axe, Eugene, this version of it, opened the journey. They were actually retitled in the suite called Green is the Color was called The Beginning, and then it segues into the next part, which is called Beset by Creatures of the Deep, which is actually Careful with That Axe, Eugene.
Technically it's got 3 titles then.
Yeah, well, it's got actually 4 or 5. It's amazing how many titles they would go to, and I will touch on that later when we get into Reverberation. But yeah, as for the songs themselves, man, I'm going to be honest with y'all, I hate Green is the Color.
Rude!
Well, she loves the Moore soundtrack, so she's a little biased.
True.
High-key biased.
Right. I'm going to be real here. I think Moore is the worst Pink Floyd album, in my opinion.
It's a fair assertion, even though you're wrong.
That'll be a fun review to do.
It's either that or Ummagumma, to be real.
Ummagumma.
I'd pick
I
them.
would say Ummagumma is bad.
But Ummagumma has a good live disc. You got to give it that.
But it also has Sisyphus, so there you go.
Oh,
I hate Sisyphus. Sisyphus is such garbage.
coming from a Rick Wright fangirl.
I will defend 99.9% of this man has done musically to my grave.
But
to my
not-
own grave. Sisyphus is the 1%. I hate that stuff.
Yeah.
It's just... This is not a show about Ummagumma. I can't go on a 10-minute rant about
No. Let's reel it back in. Green is the color. Green is the color. That's what we're talking about.
So,
color is good, and therefore, yeah, Green is the Color is good.
says you.
It's a good song. It's a good song.
I can't stand it though. It's just so lightweight. There isn't a riff that binds it all together for me.
Light and
Yeah, that's the problem I have with it. It is just so fluffy that I feel there's no substance to it.
Is there anything about this version that is redeemable?
Only the fact that it segues into Beset by Creatures of the Deep.
I just a bit get bogged down. That's Green is the Color is another one where the studio version is better in a way, because live versions are so slow. You take a song that already doesn't have much, but the airy quality of the recording, like, makes this pretty light floating song, but then you take it and you just, like, slow the strumming, and, like, Gilmore's vocals become, like, molasses, which, like, it's pretty, but then it gets pretty boring.
Yeah, but the vocals are just another thing that I can't stand about it. It's like they're all high pitched and they're all like almost falsetto. I don't think falsetto is the right way to put it. But
I feel like it might be
On the
in that register,
head voice maybe?
Maybe it's on the head voice on the cusp of being falsetto.
Yeah, it's
like
just
some notes are so falsetto that
yeah, his range it's just like right up at the top of his range where he's you can tell that what kind of sound they're going for, but it's just not one that I enjoy at all.
I never had a problem with Green is the Color. It was a song that I just acknowledged. It's there.
Yeah, I really found it surprising how easily the segue between
For real.
between Green and Eugene works.
I didn't know how the hell they were going to do that.
Yeah, and it's really weird for me to listen to it because it goes from like one of my least favorite Pink Floyd songs to one of my most favorites in the stroke of a couple of chords, and I just found that really fascinating.
Like I said, like I didn't look at my phone, so I thought this was a pretty cool jam they were doing for at the end of Green is the Color. You're right; it segues so effortlessly that I really enjoyed listening to it.
Yeah, I didn't get that the transition had happened until I heard the Nick Mason drum part that introduces that kicks off Eugene's climax.
Had you heard these two tracks performed back to back, Becca?
No.
So this was kind of like a new discovery for you.
Yeah, this was interesting. I was like, huh.
And for those who are wondering, there is no technical studio version of Man of the Journey. You can assemble one, but it's mostly a live piece that they had constructed.
Yeah.
So for those who are wondering what exactly it is, it's a live piece. Just go look it up. It's great.
Yeah.
Just go look it up. Just do it. It's
Yeah.
fine.
It's not our job. That's not our focus of this show right now.
Right on.
So that ends CD1
And 1969.
and 1969. So we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Hey guys, it's Tom. Thanks for listening to part 1 of our review of Creation by Pink Floyd. Let us know if you've heard any of the Creation or earlier songs, and tell us what you think of them in the comments below. We'll be back with part 2 soon, so in the meantime, don't forget to like this episode, subscribe for more, and we'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.
All right. Hold that thought. My laptop's on 18%. Let me grab my charger.
Okay.
So, in the words of Pink Floyd, keep talking.
Uh,
The bass in Rio is rather tasty.
I know, right? Doom, doom, doom. It's like, just want to curl up inside it.
Yeah.
So how you doing, Becca? How's your life?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Got it.
Stay night. So I just got back from Floyd.
Nice.
So
Here, will this reach?
Might have to move the computer over a bit.
All right.
So let's do that. Hold for technical difficulties.
Do 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 do. There we go. Nice and charged up.
Okay.